The term MacGuffin is widely credited to Alfred Hitchcock. So who better to explain what that is than the man himself in his interview with Dick Cavett in the 1960s.
MacGuffin you see in most films about spies. It is a thing that the spies are after. In the days of Rudyard Kipling, it would be the plans of the fort on the Khyber Pass. It would be the plans of an airplane engine and the plans of an atom bomb, anything you like. It's always called the thing that the characters on the screen worry about, but the audience don't care. And someone asked, what is a MacGuffin? And it's described in a scene in an English train going to Scotland, and one man says to the other opposite him, he said, what's that package above your head there? And the other man said, oh, that's a MacGuffin. He said, well, what is a MacGuffin? He said, well, it's an apparatus for trapping lions in the Scottish Highlands. The man said, but there are no lions in the Scottish Highlands. He said, then that's no MacGuffin.
So, in a story, the MacGuffin is that object or information that our characters are pursuing. Think R2-D2 in Star Wars, the box from Seven, the briefcase from Pulp Fiction, the One Ring in The Lord of the Rings, or the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. These are often great ways to push your characters into action, to give them a tangible objective that is easy for the reader or the audience to understand, but also to elevate the stakes within the story. As he alluded to in that interview, Hitchcock essentially believed that the object in question is meaningless to the audience or the reader of a story, but incredibly important to the characters within that story who are trying to pursue it. Think the mole in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, or the Infinity Gauntlet for Thanos, or the Horcruxes for Harry. These are all technically invented terms that don't really have any real meaning for us as a reader, but the character's pursuit of them is what sucks us into the story. We can certainly see the power of this motif in lots of popular works of media. There are many stories which are focused on that struggle between the antagonist and the protagonist trying to get a hold of a certain object, maybe to control it or destroy it for some higher purpose. There are lots of great examples all the way through literary fiction, such as the Prime Radiant from Asimov's Foundation series, or the Maltese Falcon from Horowitz's book of the same name. All of these are great examples of where that MacGuffin has played a key role in the story. Hitchcock isn't the only person who supported the idea of having a MacGuffin, but others have taken it a little bit further. Speaking to Vanity Fair in 2002, filmmaker George Lucas argued that the MacGuffin should not only be important for the characters within the story, but we should try and invest the audience or the reader into thinking that it's important too, and caring about the achievement, destruction, or possession of that object. And there's a really good argument here. Think about how much we as an audience care about the contents of the briefcase in Pulp Fiction or the box in Seven. This really sucks us into the story and has us asking questions long after that experience is finished as to what might be within that MacGuffin. So now that we've established exactly what a MacGuffin is and what its purpose can be within the story, let's look at a few different ways that you can write a MacGuffin in and how you can use it to make your story more compelling and more interesting for your reader. First of all, let's look at what we should be careful about when introducing a MacGuffin. It's really important that a MacGuffin isn't some contrivance from the author to solve a problem that they didn't have a creative solution for. If it feels too convenient or coincidental, or lucky, then a reader will feel cheated, as there was no setup for it or for its function. Think about the dagger in The Rise of Skywalker, which had no setup and worked far too conveniently to be believable. We should also be careful and remember a MacGuffin is not the story. It is simply something that pushes your characters and the story forward. Your story and narrative is about the characters, how they grow and change in pursuit of the MacGuffin. Raiders of the Lost Ark is not about the Ark. It's about Indy's journey to protect it or destroy it. Lord of the Rings isn't about the ring. It's about the Fellowship's adventure to destroy it and Sauron's attempt to reacquire it. That is what makes a story compelling and interesting to your reader. A MacGuffin is a great motivation, but if the story's not fleshed out around it, and the characters are shallow, It doesn't matter how amazing or compelling the object is. So let's talk about what we should do. When writing a MacGuffin into your book, you should make sure to define what it is, what it does, and the stakes are depending on who possesses or destroys it. In the future, we will talk about stakes in further detail, but for now, just know that your reader needs to be informed why this object is important early in the story and what the consequences could be in certain hands. In Skyfall, the hard drive with agent names on it is introduced immediately.
Is it there?
Hard drive's gone.
And we're told in the first 5 minutes what the consequences will be if Bond doesn't recover it. Having that gets us on board with the journey immediately and helps us understand the gravity of the situation. That's also why defining what it is so important. If your object is magical or supernatural, you need to set out the rules early and stick to them. This avoids you being contrived later on in the story. It also allows you to move the focus onto your characters quickly and start their development around this object. For example, the ring within The Lord of the Rings, its powers are established early, in that it can produce invisibility, we understand why Sauron wants it and what powers it will grant him, and we also understand the negative effects of the corruption that the ring has when we see Bilbo leaving the Shire. This is all established early, and it doesn't change later on in the story. On that point, we should also note that a MacGuffin can be anything. It doesn't have to be an object. So this can also include people or animals, such as the Soviet mole in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Having your MacGuffin as a person is also a really great way to make sure that your story is really character driven, because you're not focused on all the detail of an object, you're focused on a character, their motivation, and why it's so important that people acquire it. Think about the girl with the dragon tattoo as well. Another great example of a person who acts as the MacGuffin. Whatever you decide to do, just remember that the MacGuffin is not the focus of your story. It can be the focus of a character's motivation, but your story should always be about characters, how they're growing and how they're developing in their pursuit of the MacGuffin. So just make sure that when you're writing your MacGuffin into the story, that you're staying focused on the characters, not the objects. So, good luck with writing MacGuffins into your story, and just remember that they're really great for helping your reader understand why your character is doing things and why things are important within the story. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Otherwise, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends because it really helps the channel grow. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all next week.